Okay, so today we're going to go ahead and take a look at cross-process filter inside of ON1 Photo Raw. So stay tuned. Welcome back to another video right here on Free Will Photos. As I mentioned, we're looking at the cross-process filter. Now, I will be the very first person to tell you, this is a filter that I think you will only grab in very select situations. This is not an everyday filter. It can become a part of your style if you shoot a particular genre. I think that would be very, very value added. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and get started with the cross-process filter. Now, this is a very, very simple filter, okay? Outside of the original things that are just always in every filter, you have a few presets. If you drop down, you can hover over these, and it'll give you a demonstration of what it looks like. Where the cross-process filter really comes in, and this is really for people who may have developed film. Now, I've only developed a few rolls of film my entire life, but I know that there's a chemical balance that has to be just right in order for the film to expose properly. So that's essentially where this is coming from. Now, in the digital age, you don't really have to worry about that, but the color process is where the real effect happens. All right, there's three colors: there's blue, there's green, and there's yellow. And then of course there's the strong for each one of those options. All right, now I'm just going to go ahead and select yellow because I think it gives a warm feel or warm vibe for this photo, and I'm kind of digging that, not lying. All right, then of course you have the amount slider. This is just how much of this filter do you want? Do you want 0, or do you want 100 of it, or do you want to mix somewhere in between? Now, this is essentially the opacity slider. All right, where you would use the opacity slider is really if you were to add in a blend mode with this particular photo and you start masking. That's when you want to use the opacity. If you're going to use it globally and you're not really worrying about using a blend mode that's right in here, you might as well just use the amount slider. Save yourself a little bit of sanity because they essentially do the exact same thing. And pulling down on one and having 100% of the other is really just giving you like this fine-tuned range. And I guess that could be another reason for you to use opacity versus the amount. The next piece here is the brightness. How bright do you want this adjustment to be? So I'm going to leave it at 100% and I'm going to pull it all the way down. And as you can see, the yellow cross-processing filter, it gets darker. And then if you pull it all the way up, it gets brighter. This is 100% something that you have to play around with to taste and edit that to your photo. The next thing is contrast. How much contrast do you want with the color of the cross-process filter versus the other colors that are in your image? If you crank it up, you get more contrast. If you pull it down, you get less contrast. Now, I want you to note that if you pull it down, because this is contrasting a color, it's really going to start to desaturate your photo and make your photo look a little not so nice, right? Because what it's doing is it's taking that color of the cross process and it's stripping it from what would be the shadowed areas. And then vice versa, if you're moving it up, it's making that color a little bit more prominent inside of those luminance areas where contrast would really exist. And you can see that demonstrated here in the histogram where I have a ton of yellow in the shadow. If I were to turn this off, there's no yellow in the shadow. And then when I turn it back on, you can see that I have I've entered in a lot of yellow information into the shadow. And then you can desaturate the photo, desaturate where that color is really going in. And it doesn't desaturate the photo completely, but it does take away a lot of the color in the photo and leaves you with kind of just the process. And then you can also overly saturate it where there's a ton of yellow. Now, here's what I would recommend you do. You don't have to do this, just giving you a recommendation. At a minimum, you should come in here. Nope, not there. Go to your blending options or your settings or whatever, and mess around with your highlights, shadows, and skins. When you start to throw yellow into photos where there's people, especially if it's a portrait, you may start to get like this yellow looking skin, and it just looks unnatural and unhealthy. So my recommendation is just pull it away from the skin, or at least mask it out just a little bit by using a low opacity brush or with a low flow and a pretty decent feather, and just mask it away from the skin. It's something that I think you should just at least be aware of. Okay. And of course, you can come in here and mess around with the shadows. This is really only affecting the kids' clothes here. And I don't really want to adjust those. And then, of course, you can mess around with the highlights, and that's really touching the background. So if I don't want the background to be so yellow, I'm just going to go ahead and pull it out of the highlights just a little bit. And that's essentially what these faders are doing here. It's pulling away or pulling the effect away from the highlights, so it doesn't have as much presence in there. And this goes all the way up to, in this case, 64, which don't worry about the numbers. Just look at the photo as you move the slider and, adjust it to taste. So here's the before. It's a little bit of a faded image with a lot of highlights. And then here's the after, a little bit more contrast, has a yellow undertone. And again, this is a very, very simple filter. Works well if you combine it with other filters such as curves, sunshine filter, even a photo filter. There's a lot of different filters that you can apply this with, even vintage, grunge. Using it by itself probably doesn't work the greatest. So if you found value in today's tutorial, then go ahead and smash the like button. If you enjoy the content and you want to see more, consider hitting subscribe. I do produce videos on a very consistent basis, and I would love for you to be a part of the community and subscribe. If you are looking to get a copy of ON1 Photo Raw, check the description box below. It is an affiliate link that will give you a free trial, and if you decide to purchase ON1 Photo Raw using that link, then I do get a small commission. It helps this channel so we can continue to grow. If you got any questions about ON1 Photo Raw or photography in general, go ahead and drop it in the comment section below. You can also sign up for my email list, where you can just shoot me emails and I send you emails, and just for signing up, you get free presets for ON1 Photo Raw, as well as I start to produce more presets and more information, you'll be the first to know. So until the next time, I want you guys to stay inspired and keep creating. Peace.